Welcome to the Vitality Equation, exploring research in health and well-being one paper at a time.
Hey everyone, excited to be back and diving into another fascinating topic today.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always keen to see what new insights are coming out and how we can actually apply them to our lives. And this week is particularly exciting. Gut-brain axis. Here we come.
Exactly. Today we're tackling something that's been getting a lot of buzz, the impact of microbiome diversity on cognitive function. Specifically, we're looking at the gut-brain axis and how it relates to both neurodegenerative diseases and mental health.
It's kind of wild to think that what's happening in your gut could have such a profound impact on your brain. Like, it's not just about digestion anymore, is it?
Not at all, and it's honestly a bit mind-blowing when you start digging into the research. It's like, were these complex ecosystems walking around?
Totally. So let's kick things off with a bit of a news summary. I was reading a really interesting article about a study that found a link between reduced microbial diversity in the gut and increased risk of developing Alzheimer's. It was a pretty significant cohort too.
Oh wow, that's huge. Alzheimer's is such a devastating disease, and any potential modifiable risk factors are really critical. Was it looking at specific bacteria or just the overall diversity?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too, because I know some research points towards specific strains playing a bigger role than others, right? Like some are more pro-inflammatory or have specific neurotransmitter pathways.
Right. So from what I understood, they did look at some specific bacteria, but the overall picture was that lower diversity was the biggest predictor. They saw a decrease in beneficial bacteria like bifidobacteria and lactobacillus, and an increase in some more pro-inflammatory species. You know, the usual suspects when it comes to dysbiosis.
Okay, that makes sense. And that ties into a lot of the other research I've been looking at. It's almost like inflammation in the gut can create this cascade that affects the brain, leading to things like neuroinflammation, which we know is a big player in neurodegenerative diseases.
Absolutely. And that inflammatory response also interferes with the production of things like serotonin and dopamine, right? Which can obviously have a huge impact on mental health. It's not just about Alzheimer's. We're talking about mood, anxiety, even things like motivation and focus.
Exactly. It's fascinating how connected it all is. And it's not just a one-way street either. The brain can also impact the gut, which is where stress comes in. Chronic stress messes up your microbiome like nothing else.
Oh yeah, the stress link is huge. I mean, anyone who's ever had butterflies in their stomach knows there's a clear connection. And that's just a temporary thing. Imagine what chronic stress does to the system. It's like the brain gets stressed, tells the gut to panic, which then throws the microbiome out of whack. And then the brain gets even more stressed because of that. A nasty feedback loop.
It's a vicious cycle, totally. And it's a great example of how interconnected everything is. So, from my point of view, thinking about how to improve mental health through, let's say, exercise and better sleep would also have a positive knock-on effect on the gut microbiome and subsequently also improve cognitive function. It's all synergistic, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's where lifestyle interventions become so powerful. I've been experimenting a lot with diet recently, focusing on increasing fiber and fermented foods to try and boost my own microbiome diversity. And I have to say, I've noticed a difference in my mood and energy levels. It's not a perfect science, obviously, but I think it's important to see the power of simple changes.
Yeah, the diet piece is massive. And I'm thinking, alongside things like CBT, we could probably do a better job of educating people on the importance of gut health for mental well-being. Like, how many times do we hear about people going straight to medication for anxiety when maybe addressing their gut health could be a really valuable first step, or at least a complementary one?
Right, and it's not about replacing medication necessarily, but augmenting it with a holistic approach. I think what you said is spot on. Education is key. So instead of thinking of one-size-fits-all solutions like sleep pills or antidepressants, we need to look at the root causes which could be coming from the gut.
Totally. And it's also about being aware of the things that can actively harm our microbiome, like excessive use of antibiotics, for example. I think, as a society, we need to be more mindful of how we use these medications, because they have such a dramatic impact on our gut ecosystems.
Yeah, I've seen some studies showing that even a single course of antibiotics can significantly alter your gut microbiome composition for months. It's definitely not something to be taken lightly. And it's another example of how our modern lifestyles, with the overuse of antibiotics and processed foods, is not really helping our brains.
And that's where lifestyle changes again come into play. It's not just about diet, but also about avoiding unnecessary medications and focusing on a lifestyle that supports a healthy microbiome. For me, that's regular exercise, getting adequate sleep, and managing stress. When I'm not doing those things, I can feel my gut suffer.
Exactly, exercise is key. And it's not just intense workouts. Even moderate physical activity has been shown to have a positive effect on the microbiome. It's also interesting how things like meditation and mindfulness can reduce stress and therefore positively impact our gut. Like you said before, it's all connected and synergistic.
Yes, and I think that the stress aspect is particularly important because if we can't manage our stress, all the healthy food and exercise in the world might not be enough. Finding effective stress management techniques like mindfulness, deep breathing, or even just setting boundaries can make a big difference.
And we shouldn't underestimate the power of sleep either. I know that sounds like a broken record, but research keeps showing how critical sleep is for gut health. When we're sleep deprived, our gut microbiome gets all out of whack too, leading to those inflammation pathways being activated again.
It's so true. The sleep deprivation microbiome inflammation connection is strong, and it all feeds back into mental health and cognitive function. So, it's a domino effect, really. I'm really keen to try a proper sleep tracking method to see what's really happening.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I've started incorporating some bedtime routines, like dimming the lights earlier and avoiding screens before bed. Even something as simple as that makes a huge difference in my sleep quality, and therefore I can actually feel that positive effect on my gut.
I'm actually using a sleep tracker, and it's been super helpful. It's fascinating to see the data and actually quantify what's going on during the night, especially tracking those deep sleep cycles. And of course, I correlate this data with my mood and energy levels to try and fine tune things.
That's a brilliant idea. Tracking your progress is key. I mean, it's so easy to just keep doing the same things and hope for the best. But actually tracking and analyzing the results is so insightful. I'm definitely going to look into that. It's all about having that empirical data to fine-tune the process, right?
Exactly. And it also helps us become more aware of our bodies and how different factors affect us. It's like we're all unique, so what works for one person might not work for another. This means we need to understand our own systems first and foremost.
I completely agree. And it's also about being patient with ourselves, too. It's not like our microbiomes will change overnight. It takes time and consistency. But the potential benefits for our cognitive function and overall health are so worth it.
Yeah, that's so true. It's not a quick fix. It's a journey. It's about creating sustainable habits and really being aware of how our lifestyle impacts our inner ecosystem. And I think it's so empowering that we have the power to influence this, that we're not just passive victims of our genes or whatever. There are real steps we can all take.
And that's the key takeaway for me. The fact that we're not helpless in the face of these diseases. We can actively work on improving our gut health through diet, stress management, and even things like cognitive training to improve our overall well-being. It's all interconnected, a web of systems interacting.
Right. So, thinking about real-world applications, what would you say are some concrete things people could start doing today to improve their microbiome and, therefore, their cognitive function? Obviously, we should all talk to our doctor, but if we wanted to do a simple personal experiment, where would we start?
Okay, so from my angle, I'd say start with stress management. Begin with simple mindfulness exercises. Even just 5 minutes a day of focused breathing can make a difference. And alongside that, look at your diet. Increase fiber intake through vegetables and fruits, and introduce some fermented foods like kimchi or sauerkraut. Small steps can have a big impact. And maybe, just maybe, be aware of your internal dialogue, challenge those negative thoughts, and reframe them to be positive.
From my perspective, I'd say focus on movement and sleep. Aim for at least 30 minutes of moderate exercise most days of the week. And prioritize sleep. Create a regular sleep schedule. Optimize your sleep environment by making your room dark and quiet. And try to avoid screens before bed. Track it so you can observe the changes. Also, you don't need to go from zero to a marathon. Start small and build your way up.
Okay, so from my point of view, I would start with something super simple like a daily meditation practice, even if it's just for 10 minutes. And see if you can add a probiotic supplement to your diet. Again, after speaking with your doctor, which might give your gut a boost. Also, really focusing on eating a wide range of plant-based foods to feed those good bacteria. I think those are some simple and easily actionable steps that everyone could take.
Yeah, and I think we should emphasize that this isn't about perfection or overnight transformations. It's about making gradual, sustainable changes that fit into your life. There will be days where you don't get enough sleep, or you don't eat the healthiest meal, and that's okay. It's about consistency over time, and not beating yourself up when things don't go perfectly.
Exactly, it's about progress, not perfection. And it's about tuning into your body and seeing what works best for you. We're all different, so what might be effective for one person might not be for another. And also, importantly, understanding your limitations. Don't think you can be a productivity ninja that can work out 2 hours a day, get 10 hours of sleep, meditate for 3 hours, and still work a 60-hour week.
That's so important. It's about self-compassion and understanding that we're all on a journey and that setbacks are a normal part of the process. It's not about being perfect, it's about continuous improvement. And that is a lesson I have learned time and again.
And it's also about being patient. You're not going to see results overnight. It can take a few weeks or even months to notice significant changes in your gut health and cognitive function. But if you stay consistent and keep working at it, you will get results eventually. This is based on the research we have been talking about.
Totally, and it's also about making it a habit, something sustainable that you can actually maintain. It's not about a quick fix or a detox diet. It's about creating a lifestyle that supports your overall well-being. And, importantly, having that data to validate the change. Track your mood, your sleep, your workouts, etc.
Okay, so now let's think about the future of research in this area. What do you think are some promising avenues that scientists should be exploring? What are the gaps we need to fill to really understand the gut-brain axis and apply it in new ways?
Well, from my perspective, I think we need to delve deeper into the specific mechanisms by which the gut microbiome impacts cognitive function. I mean, we know there's a connection, but we need to understand the precise signaling pathways and neurotransmitters involved. Also, I think we need more research on the interaction between the gut microbiome and mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety, and how this could integrate with CBT and cognitive retraining methods.
Yeah, I agree. And from my standpoint, I think we need more studies that look at the impact of exercise and sleep interventions on the gut microbiome and how these relate to cognitive outcomes. Like, what are the optimal intensity and duration of exercise and the ideal sleep patterns for optimizing gut health and brain function? Are there personalized sleep requirements? Also, it would be interesting to research the effect of exercise in combination with specific dietary patterns on gut microbiome diversity and cognitive function. Maybe an exercise plus specific diet protocol can have a multiplier effect.
And I think, from my perspective, one really interesting direction is the potential for using personalized microbiome-based interventions, like analyzing an individual's microbiome and then tailoring diet and lifestyle recommendations based on that specific profile. We're already seeing some research in this area, but I think there's huge potential to really individualize treatment based on a person's unique gut ecosystem. What would that look like? Food supplements, specific meditation techniques, specific combinations of exercise? And we need to move away from these broad generalizations towards a more personalized approach.
And personalized exercise and sleep programs based on an individual's microbiome profile would be really fascinating. What if some specific bacteria thrive in high-intensity training and others in low intensity? What if some bacteria work with certain sleep patterns? Imagine being able to tailor exercise and sleep routines to optimize both gut health and cognitive function based on your personal biome data. That would be really interesting.
That would be absolutely revolutionary. I mean, imagine instead of taking a generic multivitamin, you would take a personalized probiotic tailored exactly to your individual needs. The potential for improving mental and physical health through this type of personalized approach is really mind-blowing. It is a paradigm shift in terms of health and lifestyle interventions.
And that's another interesting point that maybe we have not explored enough. What if some mental health conditions are caused by certain bacteria? And could we develop targeted therapies to remove these bad bacteria or promote the growth of good ones? This is very fascinating because up until now, the mental health field has been focused on brain biochemistry. But what if the origin is in the gut?
That's a really critical point. It's like we're just scratching the surface of the microbiome's role in mental health. And also, the whole communication pathways between the gut and the brain are so complex, it's a whole new field to explore. I wonder if we can modulate these pathways via exercise or specific sleep protocols. Maybe this would provide a new avenue of treatment which does not include drugs.
Yes, it's like a new frontier in health research. And from my point of view, I'm excited to see where this research takes us, as I think this could potentially change how we approach health and well-being. This is not something that only impacts neurodegenerative conditions. I think it will impact all of us.
Absolutely, and it's also about empowering people with the knowledge they need to make informed decisions about their health. The more we understand the gut-brain axis, the better equipped we will be to take control of our own well-being. It moves the focus away from drugs and puts the onus on us.
Exactly, knowledge is power. And I think that's the biggest takeaway. The more we understand the complex interactions between the gut microbiome, cognitive function, and mental health,
the more we can actually improve our own lives through simple, consistent, and sustainable lifestyle changes, which makes this area so exciting.
Definitely. Well, I think that's a fantastic note to wrap up on. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the latest research findings to practical applications and future research directions. I hope our listeners found this conversation as interesting as we did.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a real pleasure delving into this fascinating topic. I think this area has so much potential to improve our understanding of overall health and well-being. And remember, small steps make big changes over time.
Totally. It's been a great discussion. Remember, the power is in your hands. Simple lifestyle changes can have a massive impact on your microbiome, cognitive function, and mental health. Keep moving, sleep well, and listen to your gut.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Vitality Equation. Until next time.